All right, and we're live. Welcome to the Three Ideas podcast slash newsletter. Today I have joining me Martijn Verbove. Thanks so much for joining me, Martijn.
Likewise, pleasure.
Awesome. So Martijn is the founder of Webscape. So I'm super excited to have you on here to talk about it, talk about what you're building, where the future, is going with that. So could you give me a little background on, what you're building, what Webscape is, and, what you're doing day to day?
Cool. Yeah, so the idea that we're trying to accomplish is that you're able to navigate throughout the web and get to where you need to be as soon as it comes to your mind. That's our ultimate goal. So even our product is actually still in the way of that goal being fully achieved. So how do we do that? Is if you look at, for example, specific search engines that are on the market right now, for example, Google, they are amazing for discovery and for finding information, but they totally drop you off after that discovery stage. This is where Webscape comes in. So Webscape is a search engine for anything that you search or visit or intend to search or visit more than once.
Okay. Gotcha. And so is it pulling off of your computer as well? So I took a look through your website a bit, right? It looks like you guys are still in beta or only allowing, select users to come in. So this is supposed to be something that everyone can use with all the different programs they're using on their computer, right? So like if you're working off PowerPoint, Excel, and maybe an online app, is that correct?
So we're browser based. We fully integrate within the browser at this moment. And how does it cover the workspace is because we wanted a universal approach. You have a lot of tools out there and they're integration heavy. So they're limited by whatever this API has to offer. And these APIs change and these APIs are all different, and ranking search results that you receive from multiple APIs is actually extremely difficult. Therefore, the quality and the experience there is often insufficient, right? If you want to set up your search for your workspace, you don't want to spend 3 days connecting all of your tools and then coming to the conclusion that you're actually missing half of the integrations. So a lot of the tools out there fail to fully cover the workspace, even the massive platforms. That's why we like to position ourselves in between, for example, integration-heavy tools such as Notion and Coda that we know, where you can connect a whole bunch of tools to them. And then we take the search engines, which are actually universal. So Google is not limited to any type of API. That's why we take the same approach, but we integrate within the browser. So it's actually indexing what you see. And there are levels here where you actually save only the things that you want to save. And then that entire page becomes full text searchable. And also it enables you to actually pull up this UI anywhere into the browser, similar to like a Spotlight or on Mac, where you just type where you want to go and instantly go back to wherever you need to be. And the use cases here are pretty straightforward. One of them is in knowledge management, right? So you build up research over the years, how-to articles, information, or just stuff that you want to keep. And the other part is for navigating. So this is jumping to that report, to that Google Doc, to the specific board in Trello, to the specific board in Jira, which you're now all doing manually. You're doing the same steps over and over again, clicking the same actions over and over again. Some of them are highly inefficient, and you have no layer, so to say, other than bookmarking, but we all know how well that works, to create a kind of shortest path to where you need to be. And this is what we're striving to become.
Okay, gotcha. And who would you say is like your most ideal customer, at least beginning? Like who are you going after, and what's the pain point you're solving for your ideal customer right now?
So at this moment, we're targeting prosumers. These are generally people that would use the tool professionally. They would either use it as a freelancer and run it as an expense, or reimburse it within the company they work for. The profile in terms of like behavior, they would spend 6 to 8 hours a day in the browser, like myself, where I have a variety of different resources, tools, because we have a whole bunch of features built around this core search engine. As you can imagine, workspaces, tab management, tab detection. So if you search something that's already open, it just jumps to the right tab, doesn't create duplicates. You can create multiple tabs and group them into a collection, and then you can actually open everything in that collection at once. So let's say you have a workspace, which you probably have for this call right now, where you have a note, probably Twitter, some other tool, and then Riverside that we're using. Yeah, so normally you have to go and set all of those up or keep all those tabs open, and now you could just pull up that workspace with one click of a button.
Yeah, that's crazy. I thought you were like looking at my screen for a sec. I do have a notepad right here on another screen. I have Twitter pulled up, and I have Webscape and Riverside. That's funny.
Yeah, we're all the same. So
yeah, totally. So can you talk about like how you got here? Where did this idea come from? And do you have like co-founders that you're working with to build it as well?
Yeah, so we're a team of 5 people aside from me. And the journey started actually a long time ago. So I launched a product called History Search, which actually did pretty well. We launched that in 2018 and on Product Hunt, and then the Product Hunt community was super enthusiastic, and we even got the Golden Kitty life hack of the year. So we were pretty proud of that.
That's awesome.
And yeah, that was really cool. We didn't expect that, but the idea behind it was actually, if everybody has access to your information throughout the web, and it's so siloed throughout all those services, why do I not have access to that in a way that I can at least search it, you know? So that's when we had the idea with History Search. As you can hear, it's like a just super straightforward name, where we thought like, okay, you install it and it gives you like a powerful browsing history. Okay, so that was a use case, but that was really a vitamin. The thing that because it was like a backup, right? That was really, you cannot retrieve a certain article, and we had a sort of small pop-up UI in the top right corner that you could like do, not optimal. So it was really like a backup. But we discovered the most active users were searching 13 to 14 times per day. And I found that very odd, because even myself, I wasn't using it that often, because I just use it to retrieve articles that I read a while back or some research or something like that. So we started to talk to different users, and they explained to us that they were actually using it for navigating. So they knew where the information was. It wasn't that they couldn't find it. It was just that this was significantly faster to get there. And that's sort of when we understood, okay, we have to totally rebuild this. We need to change how it works. We need to change the UI. We need to change the performance and the speed, because obviously if you just want to search like a kind of pocket like of tool, it's a different UI than if you want it instantly to navigate where you want to go. And that's when we started incorporating the tabs and sort of really starting to look like, how can we bring the decentralized workspace around the web? How can we really bring that together in one tool in a way that doesn't take you weeks to set up, or in a very complicated way that requires a lot of manual work?
Yeah. And are you still running History Search? Is that still?
Well, yeah, obviously, like we have like 25,000 users there. So we maintain History Search, but we close new signups. The reason is because we knew that like we're building a new product. We're building Webscape with clear improvements, clear changes also to how it works. So History Search would index everything unless it's blacklisted. Webscape is way more intelligent than that. What it does is it actually makes it possible for you to very quickly just save any page you're on with Command-Shift-S, but you can change the hotkeys if you like. And you can, like, for example, take all open tabs and then save them as a group, so that you don't have all of the clutter that you would have if you index everything. And this is also better in terms of how we give users more control even over what is saved. So the quality is better, the control is higher. These are all the things that we're trying to accomplish all the time. And then we're also rolling out, but this is still not rolled out yet, even not for the early access users, is automations. And automations sort of automatically save stuff for you. Where does this become super useful is, let's say you have a lot of documents on Google Drive that you're opening. You might not want to hit Command-Shift-S all the time. You might just want to say, hey, if it's a Google Doc, save it for me automatically.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I want to hear a little bit more about your background. So have you always just been building tools, like growing up, coding and whatnot on the computer?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty late to the party. I would probably say like 17 is when I got into stuff. So I'm not one of these like 13-year-old coder
Yeah.
gurus, not at
Yep.
all. But since then, like I've always been intrigued with search and with performance computing. So
Hmm.
I did a lot in that field, that built a different search engine in a niche industry. Also built a website builder tool for like a niche industry as well. So those
Hmm.
are like just operational products. And then aside from that, we built some like specialized search solutions that ran on FPGA as well. So this was all before this.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, history search and now Webscape. So yeah, we're always somehow working on something cool. That's the goal. And I'm
Yeah.
working with a team of 5 guys.
Gotcha. And how did you get together with them? Have you guys just always been friends, or you kind of come together on different projects and stuck together?
Over the years, like I'm now almost 30. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's been 13 years that I've been like doing forms of building stuff. And over those years, yeah, you meet them, let's say once every 2 years, you meet someone that sticks around, or once every
Yeah.
year. And that's how our team has grown organically.
Yeah. That sounds like fun. It sounds like a frat group of like just coders. What of those products was your biggest? Was it history search, or was one of those like website builders before? Would you say bigger than history search?
In which sense? You mean
I
revenue
guess
wise, or you mean like user wise? Because user wise, it was definitely history search. Revenue wise, definitely not history search.
no.
So yeah, no. But
Was
user
there
wise, yeah.
was there like a revenue model to history search, or was that sort of a user play?
Well, we were at the stage when we were researching how we were going to roll out the better revenue models. So in the beginning, we did have like a paid plan for history search, a
Hmm.
very basic paid plan where users could either use it for free or paid. And it was actually during the stage where we were like, say, okay, let's first roll out something that people actually want to use, and then we figure out monetization after that, in terms of like how do we charge, what do we charge, stuff like that. But we did have a paid plan. There were definitely a few hundred paying users, like 400 or 500 paying users, and then we did a couple of deals there as well. But what it came down to is that during that moment where we were actually investigating how are we going to grow the company further, that's when we
Hmm.
did the discovery and insight into navigating. So
Hmm.
that sort of changed everything. And then we say like, okay, let's rebuild it based on what we've just learned.
Yeah, gotcha. So would you consider yourself an indie hacker?
Well, could you like indie hacker
Yeah, I
usually
know. It's
refers to
that.
like solo guy, right?
I guess you could say that, or like if you look at it in the term of like, like indie musicians, it just means that they haven't signed to like a record label, right? So like, I guess an indie hacker could be someone that just hasn't signed to a company in a sense, right? It's kind of working on their own projects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as like dispersed across as many projects as I see some of the community is. Although I
Hmm.
always love seeing like the new tools. Like for me, the goal is really to build like a company. I
Yeah.
want this company to grow. I want this company to sustain more people. I want it to support more users. I want to really grow it out. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe one day we'll be a record label, but we'll do it in our own way. Like we're not the traditional kind of company, but definitely the goal is to make this really big. I mean, the goal is we really want to take on the other side of search, right?
Hmm.
The part where currently users are dropped off entirely by large providers. And we
Yeah.
want to become the main player in that space. And that's an enormous volume of searches, actually. So around 60% of Google searches are navigational.
Hmm.
And that means that that users have a specific intent of where they want to go. They're not discovery searches. So that could be going to a login page. It could be a repeat visit to an article. It could be retrieving some kind of information, looking up a phone number, this type of stuff. These are all considered navigational searches because you're not open to 10 or 20 different solutions. That's actually where they monetize and optimize towards that, obviously.
So then the other 40% is more discovery, like looking for an answer or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, these are of course not strict metrics. So like, but this is a rough number where you would say like a specific volume. So to give you an impression, right? If you would look at the search volume for Slack login, how high that would be, you would be shocked by the numbers. And if you would compare that to direct searches for actual discovery, and you add all of the different services that we're using in day-to-day life together, then you'll be shocked by the percentage that are actually not discovery searches or transactional searches, as they call it in SEO. They call it like transactional, informational, or navigational. Transactional means you have buy intent. Informational means you're looking for some information and are open to various sources. Navigational means that you are either that you have one specific location in mind. So and even sometimes transactional searches become navigational. So let's say I say buy iPhone 5 Amazon. If I search that in Google, I'm actually not interested in. I've just said that I want it from Amazon.
Yep.
And that's actually where you see that where Google still covers that use case pretty well. But when it comes to way more specific or more niche information, let's say Stack Overflow articles, how-to articles, knowledge bases, or even the tools that we're using or the stuff behind plugins, all of that is obviously invisible and unreachable.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense to me when I want to, pull up Twitter or I want to pull up Riverside, right? Like a lot of the time I'll just go to Google and type in Riverside, right? Like I know exactly where I want to go. I'm not looking for a podcasting platform. I'm looking to log into Riverside, right? So that makes a ton of sense to me. So I know you touched on, the future of Webscape. Are there any dates coming up or anything that you can share about, where you're taking Webscape, any events coming up that you can share with us?
So yeah, we're onboarding people one-on-one about 3 days per week. So yeah, we did recently we sent out a couple of invites and the slots were like booked out like within 2 days. So we had to turn back a notch there. So that's pretty exciting. We're going to do another round of invites. So right now, this month, we scheduled full, not the month, but like 4 weeks month, like the coming 4 weeks. Yeah. Next month, so let's say the second week of October, we're going to do another batch of people that we invite. So right now, our goal is really to onboard people one-on-one and give them the experience that we're striving for. So we really want to give them a really premium experience in terms of like how they feel that we're connecting the product to them and how they are in exchange going to be a part of how this product becomes better. So this is actually very different than how I launched History Search. So when I launched History Search and like how most of us would launch a product, right, is you say like, okay, I'm going to launch it and then I want as many users as possible and I want as many people to try it out and then we'll see what sticks. With Webscape, I thought like, I want to find those 100 people that really want this product. I don't even want 1,000 of them because we have a pretty high friction onboarding funnel. And the goal of this funnel is really to understand which people are most interested to try out the product. Because we have all kinds of assumptions, right? We have target audience characterizations, et cetera, but we want to know which people are actually so motivated to solve this problem. And then we want to learn from those people.
Totally. And how are you going about finding most of your customers right now? Are they reaching out to you or finding you somehow? Or are you outbound? How is that working?
So not that much outbound. Obviously, like I'm talking to quite a few people just in the space, just in general, not as much to like get them to try out Webscape because that's not the goal, right? We want people to find us, but we have we have different mechanisms in place. So we have obviously the History Search user base, which gave us a bit of an advantage, right? Because we could inform a large group of people that we're building something new. Then obviously just the regular network, doing some tweets about it. We also rolled out like a tweet for early access, sort of like reverse referral mechanism So what happens, people can go through the funnel, and then if they want to access the express queue, so like to join the early access express queue, they can tweet a referral link, and then we use that to give them early access or to prioritize them in early access. So doingly, the people that are actually helping us create some more awareness, they are getting the benefit of coming in even sooner. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, totally. And I bet you that makes them more likely to use the product, right? A lot of the stuff that you're saying resonates with me. So I've been building Subshark, which is basically a referral tool for Substack, so you can refer people to your newsletter. And our initial strategy was basically to tweet it out, put it anywhere on Reddit. The normal kind of growth hacking to try to get users. And immediately, we have about 60, 70 beta users on there. But the ones that we've reached out to one-on-one onboarded, walk them through the entire tool. Obviously, we can see they're actually using it. They're having success with it. But the ones that find it, sign up for free, and never touch it again, obviously, they don't see as much value to it because they're like, let's check this out. I don't want to put in the effort. And then they never touch it again, which I'm guilty probably of doing that as well, right? If I find a beta for a product, I'll log in, say, this is kind of a cool product, but I'll take a look at this later, right? And then I never take a look at it later. So that I really like that strategy of, onboarding one-on-one and figuring all that out rather than, a mass approach.
And there's the other thing as well, that building a good onboarding flow is so hard. It's a product on its own, right? How do you break down something you've built, especially if it's a bit more advanced? How do you break down that flow in a way that people can comprehend it in 1 or 2 minutes? Right now, we're dedicating officially 20-minute slots to each call, but they always take longer. So you learn so much. You hear questions, you hear stuff, also in terms of bug testing, because each user that we onboard, we help them set it up. It's not us demoing the product. No, we're guiding them to set it up for themselves. And then obviously from our insights, because we know the product from top to bottom, from that insight, we sort of say, hey, I noticed that this might be interesting for you. Or they mentioned another challenge they face. We say, oh, well, actually, that could potentially be resolved. We hadn't thought of that, but let's figure it out. So I would say this is the way for if you're below 1,000 users, this is the way to go, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's that unscalable approach, right? Everyone talks about scale, like it's not scalable, but when you're under 1,000 users, scale probably shouldn't even be in our vocabulary yet, right? Like we just need to get our first 1,000 users before we worry about any sort of scale. But that's super interesting. So I'll move on now to the last part. So this is the part where I like to ask about a business idea that you may have that you're probably not going to work on, or maybe you will in the future, but something that you think would be super interesting to work on. And then just, what customers you would go after, how you would go about acquiring those customers, how you'd go about building the product, all of that good stuff. Could you walk me through a business idea that you have right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think it ties neatly into what we just discussed, right? So how do you get your initial 1,000 users? And this comes to relationship building. And right now, if we look at a lot of the CRM solutions out there, they are really heavily optimized towards companies, right? So HubSpot is amazing for business. I mean, everything that I can think of, they have. And there's a large variety of other services also. But this is, again, the scaling aspect. If we look at the personal aspect, it's really about relationship building. And if we look at a relationship management CRM, which would be a personal CRM, which is omni-channel across the different tools that we use, for example, Twitter, Reddit, et cetera, that brings the connections that we make on those platforms together in a tool that would enable us to manage them over time. So think about, let's say, for example, you and I, we get in touch, and probably we would not continue a conversation until one of us 6 months later thinks oh, hey, I haven't spoken to Nick for ages. Whereas that's a lost opportunity in a relationship, because when you meet people where you have a connect with, right now, the social media and the platforms are super geared to just reaching more people, new people. Whereas the way that I would like to see it is we're building a kind of tool, and it has to be plug in with the platforms out there, right? It doesn't really work to go and build a new social network just due to scale. But if you plug in with the current tools, such as, for example, Twitter, Reddit, etc., and there is a way to effectively manage relationships that you build up with people there. And this would be part DMs, this would be part posts, this would be reminders where say, hey, you haven't engaged with this person for a while. And then it would actually highlight, for example, if you tweet something to me, or it would just actually be optimized towards building relationships and not just reaching larger and larger numbers. It's a very abstract idea. I'm not planning to build it, but I definitely think this is a problem that many of us face and will face in the coming years, where we actually had the period of the past 20 years where it's just about reaching 1 million followers. And I think right now we're actually going to go probably a little bit more towards segmented groups. We're already seeing that, right, with Twitter communities, spaces, stuff like that. But yeah, how do you manage that, and how do you communicate effectively with hundreds and maybe 1,000 people?
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, because you're totally right. There's people in my Twitter inbox, right, that I may have talked to 6 months ago or a year ago. And unless I was reminded that, like, hey, like, remember this person, remember the things you guys talked about, remember, they're working on this, or they have this specific skill and they said hit them up in a year. Like, totally, there's a ton of missed opportunities there. In terms of, building this, I think you probably have to be technical or have a technical co-founder, right? Because there will be a technical aspect to building an app like this. But how would you go after acquiring customers or users for something like this?
Well, probably with the low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, every time I think that I build something in the most simple form possible, I come to the conclusion that wasn't the case. I just didn't understand what I was building good enough, like in hindsight, right? So I think, like, with this type of product, you really need to start with the lowest hanging fruit. And an approach could be, for example, to just look at an inbox or at some basic form of, like, tool where you would monitor last conversations with people, length of conversations. Today you have really nice, for example, GPT-3, or you have other language libraries that can indicate if a conversation was positive or not positive, if a conversation was long. Pretty basic stuff that you could build fairly quickly. Definitely, this is going to involve some type of coding, but I guess, well, I'm not sure, because there's so many amazing no-code tools out there that you could actually build probably most of the interface of that to get started with. Yeah,
I suppose you could. I feel like a lot of tools can probably start as no-code, but as they actually scale and get enough users, they kind of have to implement code at some point, right? Like, you don't hear of too many products that scale past, thousands and thousands of users. I could be totally wrong, but you don't hear of, like, $1 million businesses that are really built off of no code in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't count, like, WordPress, then that's correct. Some software applications, because if we look, for example, at IMDb, right, if I'm not mistaken, that's built entirely off WordPress. And I would probably categorize. So but I agree with you. Like, at some point you're going to have a level of scale that you need performance, and usually that's where no-code tools will lack, because they have obviously not the most efficient solution for any type of operation, but they have the most generic one, so that it's likely to be able to build a lot of different things within limited parameters.
Yeah, totally. And I think for customer acquisition for this idea, you could actually use your own tool to reach out to people, right? Like, you're essentially building a CRM to reach out to potential users, right? And building Subshark, I have reached out to a lot of people on Reddit, a lot of people on Twitter, right? And if I had all of those in one inbox, saying I talked to them then at this time, maybe follow up with them in another week, see if they actually onboarded correctly. I think there's a lot of different ways you could use it like that. So I like
now
this
that we
idea.
think of it, like it could be pretty cool as like a personal community as well. So it could also like have some kind of basic feed that pulls in the information or shows updates throughout the web related to, people that you've connected with. Like, Mention, probably, I believe it's mention.com or .io. They do this for brands, right? They do I believe brand monitoring, it's called. Where whenever someone tweets about you, it's like Google Alerts, but a bit more sophisticated and also across social media, where you get a notification if someone mentions your brand name.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff would be interesting as well. That, for example, I would see, oh, hey, Nick Connolly would be posted something across the web. I would see the update there. Would trigger another point of interaction. You might not have shared it, but it might still be a good point for, okay, let's reach out there.
Yeah, totally. And I think like even for, we discussed indie hackers, if they build some sort of tool, right? And immediately they're not going to typically pay for customer acquisition or for advertising, right? A lot of the time it's going to be one-on-one direct DMs on Twitter or Reddit, right? So if they just had it all in one place so they weren't just spamming, I think that that could be just like a tool in the tool belt for indie hackers, just like something they need to have when they start out.
Yeah, and also anyone really, because I believe that if you would pull this type of tool within the sales, professional or corporate sales, it's equally important because it's about relationship management and not just about messaging. So and that's probably, I think someone is probably already working on this, by the way, but it's an idea that I was thinking of that would be really useful, especially to me.
Yeah, totally. I think it's more like the consumer base, right? Like I use Salesforce at my job, right? It's a super powerful tool, but that's more for like large scale customers, sales, things like that, right? Not actual one-on-one relationship management. So I like that a lot. Well, thank you for that idea, and thanks for joining me today. Any last words you want to leave us with? Any advice or any plugs about Webscape you'd like to throw in here?
Webscape, the domain name is Webscape.ai. And something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, I was also tweeting about it recently, so you might have seen that. I've been really thinking about how important it is that we work joyfully versus only the traditional picture where we're looking at working hard. So you can work hard joyfully, but just don't forget the joyfully part. And I think that's the accent that I would like to leave off with here today and to share.
I like that a lot. Thank you for that. I like that a lot. Well, thanks so much for joining me. And with that, I will shut us down.
Cool.